Check, check one. And check, check two. Check one, check two. Check, check, check. Check, 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 check. 1, 2, 1, 2.
With that, good evening and welcome to our guest. We'd like to open up our Pembroke School Committee meeting for Tuesday, March 21st, 2023. If you would all rise with me and we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Adjustments to the agenda?
There's just one additional communication that I wanted to share with you all. Obviously, Lance and I were just approached by Sabrina to attend the select board meeting on April 19th. That was already on our schedule to present our budget for a second time. But they'd also like us to be available for questions related to the warrant article on the regional planning committee for vocational. With that being said, I have been planning to offer an evening for parents and community members to come in and ask questions as well. So that's scheduled for April 6th at 6 o'clock. So it's going to be here at North Pembroke, and I'll push that out. I just wanted you guys to know that. Just wanted to get ahead of any questions for the warrant article.
So it's on April 6th, not April 19th?
April 19th, we've been invited to the select board to answer questions associated with the article.
Okay.
I'm also offering an opportunity for parents and community members to come here and ask questions as well. And we'll answer what we can. Obviously, we won't have all of the answers, but I want to make sure people have an opportunity to ask questions ahead of town meeting. So they have accurate information. So
Great,
we'll push that out probably later this week. So as you know, there's not a perfect night where there isn't something else going on in the district. I think there's pizza bingo that night at Hobbamock. So if Hobbamock families have questions, I will give them the email address. They can email me, and I'm happy to respond to them.
Accept a motion to approve the school committee meeting minutes of March 7th.
So moved.
Motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
The superintendent's report.
Sure. You all have a whole bunch of presentations due to the cancellation last week. Tonight we'll be going over your visual performing arts, technology, athletics, and facilities. I put them in the order that they were on the agenda for last week, so whoever's first.
Good evening, everybody. Gives me great pleasure to talk about all things art and music. So just a quick overview tonight. I'm going to be updating you on our FY23 goals and the ongoing work that we've been doing, going over the maintenance of effort budget for FY24, a new budget request concerning the new digital arts pathway, and then our next steps. So celebrating accomplishments, we're a very active department, as you know. So faculty has been working in PLC groups. When the new frameworks came out in 2019, our mission was to get all of our current curriculum, music and art, K-12, updated to the new frameworks, including the brand new section of media arts, which wasn't its own separate entity before. So I'm pleased to say that the faculty worked really hard, and that is completed, as well as creating the new digital arts pathway, working with Mary Beth and the Teaching Learning Group. Other accomplishments, we were really pleased to get some amazing scores last spring that all 13 of the students enrolled in AP Art received a qualifying score. It's an amazing breadth of work that they do to put together that portfolio. It was the first time the particular teacher had been teaching AP, so we were just, that was like a little jolt that we all needed. It was wonderful. And we continue to have many of our students exhibiting work in the Scholastic Globe Art Show, the Emerging Young Artist Show at UMass Dartmouth, Congressman Keating's Juried Art Show, Josh Cutler's Juried Art Show, as well as we have a number of students that enter our local Pembroke Arts Festival as well. That's on top of all the art shows that we do here in the district as well. Also, our Harborough art teacher engaged some of our senior citizens through the Council on Aging to come in to do a project with her students. That was met with great success. In our digital arts realm, we had students take part in what's called Students Rebuild, which was a fundraiser for Ukrainian refugees, where they were creating little welcome note cards, and for every note card that was designed and submitted, $10 was donated toward that fundraiser. We also, beyond the scope of our in-district concerts, we have students out performing all over the place. Fenway Park, Derby Shops, JFK Library, Music in the Parks, New England Village, Providence Bruins, Abington St. Patrick's Day Parade did not happen this year, but has happened for the last 13 or 14 years. And of course, you know we are taking our high school musicians to Disney World to perform on that stage. We continue to always, our main mission of our department is really to provide as many musical and artistic experiences that we can for the students in the district. So every concert that we have a part of, as well as when the town calls and says, hey, we need a group to do X, Y, and Z, we really like to be there. So we continually perform at the Veterans Day and the Memorial Day ceremonies for the town. Every year, we prepare in grades 7 through 12 students to take part in the outside festivals that Pembroke belongs to. There's 2 organizations. One is the SEMSBA, the Southeastern Massachusetts Bandmasters Association, which is made up of 34 towns on the South Shore, and also the Southeastern District, which is part of the state mass organization. We, in the Southeast District, there's about 90 or so middle schools and their respective high schools that took place at district. It's a little harder to make district than it is to make SEMSBA, just because there are more schools involved. And of course, the district is the path for our students to get to the All-State Music Festival. And this year we have a very interesting thing happening. There's a composer that was contracted, and the wind ensemble, it's for new band work, and the wind ensemble is working with a consortium here on the South Shore of other bands that are going to, they paid, I think it was about $100 fee for this particular composer, and they're going to be premiering this work in conjunction with other bands in the South Shore area. There's Hanover and Situate, King Philip, Marshfield. There's quite a few here on the South Shore that all got together, and so that's going to be a really exciting to play a newly composed work. We again are ongoing celebrating our community. The first 2 next to each other, professional development, kind of go hand in hand, where as a faculty I do like to ask them about their professional development. What do they need? How can we best support them moving forward? And so one of the ways we've been looking at through the lens of diversity in our curriculum, are we representing women artists and women composers and people from other nations? So we've been kind of looking at that with that lens when we did our alignment to the new standards, as well as we are continuing to see, as is everybody, you know, a very diverse population of learners, of challenged learners in our classrooms. And the music and art rooms often are very different environments for students to learn in. There isn't necessarily that organized desk. They're walking in and there's, I don't want to say chaos, but there's more noise and there's more things going on. So my department, we wanted to focus on how can we best teach those students and adapt what we do to meet their needs. So our professional development this year, we have an art therapist and a music therapist that are coming in, that are trained, that are specifically giving us tools to look at how we can adapt our lessons to meet the needs of those particular learners. And that's been really excellent. The feedback from the staff has been very favorable. And as well as our creation of our digital arts pathway, I'm thrilled to tell you that we do have 6 students that are taking the certification, 2 in Illustrator and 4 in the Adobe Photoshop. And so we want to continue to kind of look at that. Will be on our next steps too, to continue to define and redefine and look at that. How is that moving forward? What other steps do we need to do to include as many students as possible? Whoop, too far. So this is our current staffing. We do have 1 visual art and 1 music teacher in each of the elementary schools, as well as Dan Hawes, who is a full-time itinerant teacher who goes to all schools every day at the elementary level. And we have 1 string teacher who does a .2 and just does Wednesdays, but is itinerant as well, goes to all 3 schools to service the students for the strings. And at the middle school, we have a full-time art teacher, a full-time music teacher, and then I myself and Mr. Tarbucks go over to do chorus and orchestra. That amounts to the .2. And you can see at the high school we have 4.8. So a total of 14.2 in the visual performing arts staffing. We're always looking at our enrollment. Of course, with COVID, everybody's music numbers kind of took a little bit of a hit there. But I'm pleased to say that we are coming back. So this year you can see our enrollment. We have a total of 180 grade 5 and 6 students participating in band and strings in our district. So we're really happy about that. Current VPA class enrollment at the middle school and the high school. So 84%. 84% are involved in art at the middle school. We have, 76% at PCMS. At the high school, it is 42% in art, and in music, 21%. So the high school numbers, just to compare to last year, are absolutely exactly the same. So I thought you might like to know that. Last year at the middle school, we were 82%, so we've gone up 2% there. And last year at PCMS, we were 77%. So it's pretty much the same with our numbers. I will pause here because I'm sure there'll be questions about this, but when we had some reduction in staffing and we switched in the middle school to having the chorus and the orchestra during Titan time, there's good points and bad points. So the most excellent point has been accessibility, that our students that are really interested in music, that are doing band or orchestra, also can sing in chorus. 50% of the students that I have this year in the middle school chorus are involved in band and orchestra. That's a very high number, 50%. And those kids, if it was during the day, would have to choose more than likely. So that's been really good. The hardest challenge for Mr. Tarbucks and I is that we just don't see them as often because you're competing for them during Titan time when they might need to access academic support. So I see them twice a week, sometimes once a week, depending on the schedule. So I would say that's the hardest thing, just retention and seeing, how much can you get done when you're seeing them during that Titan time block. But it's such a win having students from the band and the orchestra be able to sing. I mean, it helps their music development all the way around. So to me, that's worth it. That's been awesome. New budget request. So this is everything to do with digital arts pathway. So right now, in order to prepare for the Photoshop and Illustrator certifications, the students need access to something called LearnKey, which is a Gmetrics platform, and it basically is modules that take them through. They are most of them are an independent study preparing for that with the help of the digital arts teacher. So these modules are really important to supplement what she's able to give them. And that is a seat license of 10 seats. Next year, looking at the numbers that are coming up, we have 14 students that have elected that they're interested in the digital arts pathway, and also the Honors 4, which we're offering for the first time, Digital 4 as Honors and CP. I believe the enrollment is close to 14 or 13 combined. So if you add that into the pathways, we think we're going to need about 20 seats for the licensure. And then we've been covering their Adobe, their practice test vouchers. I believe, Mary Beth, you said through 2025?
We got one more year, just to make sure, we weren't sure about how it was all gonna work and what the requirements would be. But I think at a certain point, that will be something that families will be looking at as an expense, much as an AP exam is an expense to a family at a certain point. So we have to play with that and see what grant money is out there and move the night closer to you, and how we can manage it. But we wanted for at least the first year that there was a, ninth graders electing these pathways to make sure that we were seeing the whole thing through so that we could troubleshoot that before, we're trying to figure it out on the fly. So.
Thank you. So I did include that here. We have a printer that's about 10 years old, and it does need some replacing. And then a commitment to write the curriculum for the Honors 4, which will be a new class. So the total new pathways request would be $5,000. And this is just a breakdown. This is all music and art K through 12. So all the way through in what we spend, so 88,280 plus the new request of the digital arts pathway. So to be a request of 93. And here you can see that most of our money goes to consumables. It goes to art supplies. Because once they've used them, they've used them up, and so we need to rebuy them every year. So again, that's a K to 12 transportation, taking students to the festivals and things like that. Contracted services are things like renting the chairs for all band night, or getting pianos tuned, or an accompanist, or the kiln maintenance, etc. And then our next steps, I will be wanting to look very closely at the numbers and see what the impact is of the scheduling, adding the pathways. Obviously, there's a pathway in my department that I'm so excited about, but it will have an impact on as students fill their schedules and what they're able to fit in. So, in grade 5 and 6, there's not a lot in town. We're kind of, the new big thing in grade 5 and 6 to take band and orchestra. And then as they come up to the middle school, there's more choice. And of course, when they get to high school, there's lots of choice. So, how do we continue to attract those students and find room for their schedule in an all-elective department? We do not have a fine arts requirement for graduation, because so many of our students take fine arts. So, but it's something that I want to keep an eye on. There's a lot of our classes are full-year classes, and so how do we best support students and give them everything that they want to take as much as we can? And like I said, touched on earlier, we will need to continue to revise and look at the digital arts pathway as it's moving forward. Certainly we're piloting it this year. And we're always looking for ways to continue to expand to the broader community. I was really hoping to have a senior choir from the Council on Aging this year, and I think COVID's still a little scary for people, but I'm really hoping that that's something that we can do and bring them in and have them sing, with all choral night, and I just think that would be, or get parents involved. A lot of parents, students get their musical, talent from their parents, so a lot of the time. So get them in, get them singing. We're always looking for ways to involve the community. And then I would love to create a music technology elective. Again, it's money, but it hits a certain population that doesn't, maybe not involved in a performing ensemble, but really has that creative spark to compose, or they have a band, or whatever it be. They're arranging, music for themselves to sing, guitar, piano. But I think that's something that we are missing, and I think it would capture some of the interest of our student population. So that's everything from visual performing arts. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions? Sue, you want to start?
Well, first of all, I'll just say, my kids didn't get their musical talent from me, so you wouldn't want me.
And I already told Susie she couldn't participate, so.
I was in a band.
I
Played the
couldn't.
bass guitar and sang.
Yeah.
What the heck? And the piano, there you go.
Yeah, well,
Not great at any of them? I don't want the public calling me, trying to sign me for gigs.
my question really is around, the scheduling, I'm so excited about the pathways. I don't want anything to, come in between students wanting to, oh, sure, just people wanting to, be part of pathways and choosing it. And what I've heard from people is that they're worried about choosing a pathway and choosing band, and also the language piece, so they can't take a language if they choose band. And is there some sort of a workaround that you're thinking of? That, I know it's a complicated question, I'm sorry.
Yes, we have a temporary workaround. The temporary workaround is that we looked at the pathways courses, and the area that it's most impactful for is the Project Lead the Way courses, because they're year-long electives. So those year-long electives are competing with the year-long band elective and a year-long world language elective, right? So those are the three. It seems to be coming up about band. Gwen has fielded a number of calls, as have I. What we did decide was that the three initial courses for Project Lead the Way could be enough for a pathways designation at graduation. You'd still have to take some half-year electives as well, but those three core classes could be enough, which would give ninth graders one more year before they'd have to join a pathway. They could
as ninth graders still elect band and then decide if they wanted to at that point, how to proceed. There are probably other ways of looking at scheduling, in terms of going to semester courses. I'm not sure that we're there for next year, but I would see that, we'll be talking about that next year for sure.
Right, there seems to be a ton of pressure in the ninth grade because of the PE requirement as well. So, giving the buffer that 3 of the 4 would be required for the designation gives you the space in that freshman year that if you can't fit one in, you can still get all the way.
Yeah, you could still fit in a semester course to back up to
PE.
the wellness class. So that gives you a chance to get your feet wet, to try something, and then start the pathways classes in Project Lead the Way at least, as a sophomore.
So, Mark's probably gonna kill me for even bringing this up, but,
You went home.
is there the possibility of revisiting the idea of band fulfilling the PE requirement like we used to have?
So we have almost no exceptions to the PE state requirement other than our student athletes. And if you look at the wording of the state law associated with PE, band doesn't really need that.
Well,
So
what does it need to meet it? Like could we find a way to make, because I mean, they are spending a full week in the summer.
Right, but that would be giving students 2 types of graduation credit for one class, right? So you'd be getting the PE credit for a class in addition to getting credit for the class as the band.
But the student athletes aren't getting credit, like if they're
Right,
playing
we're not
soccer.
double counting any of their coursework at the high school towards a PE graduation requirement. But we'd be counting band towards their 88 or credits for graduation as well as towards the PE requirement, which for athletes, we're not taking something that's already in their schedule and saying that counts for PE.
Well, band has extracurricular requirements in addition to in school, but in the athletics,
and
don't,
the
so.
waiver for athletics is associated with the amount of hours of physical activity associated with the sport. I don't know.
So that's why I'm asking, like, is there a way to, like, I don't know if there's an answer to this. I'm just kind of throwing it out there.
We can look
because
at it again.
because
Happy to
I-
look at it again.
I feel like it really, for the kids that are in band, it is a lot of physical activity. They're out there running around, they go to the football games, they're, I know it's marching band, but they're carrying heavy
Right,
instruments,
right.
and they're running around the field.
And there are years where we have 3 home football games, so.
That's true,
Right.
that's true,
So-
but
but we
plus
can absolutely look
Thanksgiving.
at it.
Yeah, yeah.
We did talk about it as a teaching and learning group a couple of times, and one of the things that we're concerned about is that our ninth graders do have a wellness component to their phys ed requirement, and that is one formal place in the curriculum where students are exposed to the Break Free from Depression curriculum and
Yeah.
to some conversations that have to do sort of
Which is
with
so
anxiety
yeah.
and depression.
And that's so important, no question. I just wonder if there's another way to deliver the content and,
You go to 8 periods a day and.
Talk to, would you consider partnering, and this was kind of a question I had for you, Gwen, because I still got tight ties to New Jersey, most of my family's there, and there are some that take classes at one of the high schools near where we used to live, and they partner and get credits for classes that they take tied to the community college. So is that something we could explore where, say, a community college or a local college, because we live near so many, where they don't necessarily have a band, for instance, could we partner and we could be representative for their community as well from a music, and then maybe that would up the physical, but then we get the transportation. I'm just throwing things out.
So you're thinking like a dual enrollment situation?
Yeah,
Is that what you're
yeah.
thinking?
Do we
Yeah,
do
so
any of
there-
that now?
That we can do that, and we have done it in the past for certain students. We tend not to have a lot of students that want to be dually enrolled at a college and a high
Right.
school at the same time. That's a difficult thing,
I
especially given
just
our
had started
location.
hearing about
Yeah.
it, so I wondered,
But
and
it's
I don't know.
going to become more popular, Susie, I think, as things move more and more online. You'll have, we do have kids that are taking certain courses through a university if they've maxed out of our curriculum requirements, and they still need to, maintain, like, for example, in math. We have a number of students that take their last year of math sometimes online through Johns Hopkins. So there are those situations that occur, but I'm not aware of that being offered so much for a band.
Yeah,
class.
I am not
wondering.
either.
It's usually more for those kind of core courses.
my piece of it is like, I just don't want to see those two very important things competing. I mean, band shouldn't be competing with our pathways, you know? So we've got to find some kind of a workaround, you know? So are you saying that in sophomore year that it will still be an issue, like they'll have to choose band or pathways?
Well, things start to open up a bit. Kids tend to have decided what they like. I think that that's a logical place for them to find a space, perhaps, in their schedule. We're just trying to give them some options as well. You know,
I know,
the
I know you're,
resources are finite, so
Yeah.
trying to.
Right, and at some point you have to make you may have to make a choice, right? What is the most important thing for me? I mean, there's students that take 2 science courses or 2 math courses because those things are important to them, but they may also want to take band. So it's, you know, how do we meet as many needs as we possible can while still staying true to what we're trying to create here, right? With the minimum requirements for designation, with meeting the state requirements for graduation, meeting our own graduation requirements. There's just a lot of factors that play into it, but
yeah, I know, it's
We
a
share
really
your-
complicated
It's a big
issue.
puzzle.
It's a
We
big
share your
puzzle.
concern.
Right.
We've spent a lot of time talking about it as a
We have.
group, and it's definitely, we're aware of it. We just don't,
Yeah.
it's a resource issue, you know?
Yeah, I totally understand, and I wonder if we could can we put it on the agenda to talk about again at some point in the near future, so we can maybe brainstorm to find a solution? I don't know if there's, like, when David's here, I bet he'd have some thoughts, too.
Well, again,
it might be something you want to kick to Ed Sub.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was gonna say,
Start the conversation.
Yeah, yeah.
a subcommittee would be probably the best home for that.
Yeah,
Yep. I'll do that.
thank you.
Any more questions from you two?
No, I'm sorry.
No questions for me. I'm just really impressed with all of the programs, but also like where you've brought the kids to play and all that would have had concerts and everything. I mean, this sounds like we have a really good program here. So that's
We
exciting
do.
to hear.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
No, and Gwen, just thoughts from me. One, I'm jealous I'm not going back to Disney because I went 4 years ago with Abby and it was a lot of fun. It's a great experience, and I'm glad we're able to get back there again, which is great.
Thank you.
I think when you talk about the music technology component, my mind goes to like production and sort
Yes,
of
exactly.
soundboards and those type of things, and where opportunities, that to me is an area that we can make space for. We don't
Yeah,
have to create
recording
something-
engineering,
Yeah,
yep.
that type
Mhm.
of, sort of that direction when it comes to production of a concert and that type of thing. So I think a lot of different veins that we can.
Yeah, we do it on a small scale now, where we have the AV, or the audio engineering club, and so we're teaching kids about the soundboard and how to record and how to set up microphones, but yeah, we could take it
Yeah,
even
that's
further,
awesome.
yeah.
Again, thank you for.
Thank you very much. Thank you,
Thank you
everyone.
very much.
Yep, I told Gwen she could go. She's teaching first thing in the morning. So.
Yes, yes.
Glasses on, I still can't see. Okay. Good evening, thanks for having me. My name is Brandon Hall, I'm the Director of Instructional Technology. I just wanted to give you an update on what our budget looks like for next year, some of our goals and our priorities for 2024, and a little bit of an update on the last 2 years. Of course, our goals are always to provide staff with best practices, ensure all are using the most up-to-date devices by providing a 3-year refresh cycle for every employee in the school district, to work to meet the goals of our 3-year tech plan, and offer support for more than 85 ed tech software programs. Some of our successes for the past year in our faculty and staff section: the creation of our 3-year tech plan is one of the biggest ones. The implementation of WeVideo for audio and video projects. And then Mr. Tinker has partnered with MassQ to create an assistive technology special interest group. Excuse me. The special interest groups through MassQ are really important. That's where a lot of the work happens at the state level. And he has done an unbelievable job advocating for that at the state level. For our student successes, 3D printing in the curriculum, expansion of our stream courses and makerspaces, a reimagining of the PCMS library to include green screen, podcast studio, esports, and coding across the curriculum, as well as the addition of our PHS student help desk and interns. Successes for this year for hardware: new elementary staff device rollout, our second wave of projectors that went out to our classes that were missed the last time around, and the replacement of 200 Chromebooks as devices aged out. As far as infrastructure is concerned, continued upgrades to our wireless internet with larger access points, and we'll talk about E-rate in a little bit, but we've used our E-rate funding for that. That is a 40% approximate discount that we receive from the federal government for infrastructure pieces. And then upgrades to our virtual backups using VMware, and upgrades to our firewall and threat protection. Our current tech staffing: one director of instructional technology, one software and data manager, one network manager, one media technician, one digital learning specialist, and then 6 building-based stipended technology integrators. These are teachers who are paid a stipend to assist their colleagues with lesson plans or troubleshooting, and they become sort of our first line of defense. So looking at our current costs: staffing, $440,000; software and licensing and support, $412,000; internet, actually, fun fact, we have qualified for cheaper internet. We're going to save about $1,700 a year and get the exact same level of internet service. So that's a nice piece. We'll see a little discount there. And again, E-rate, there's a discount that's also part of that. That's about a 40% discount. And then supplies and materials. As Gwen had said about her consumables, we also have a lot of consumables. Technology department, things like printers, and it just don't last as long as they used to. So as far as growing the department goes, looking at, and I know Gwen talked a lot about the digital arts pathway, but in looking at sort of in our department, we covered that digital arts pathway, as well as what will be a computer science pathway, and engineering and manufacturing. So starting at the K-6 level, the STREAM labs, where students are introduced to basic topics, computational thinking, some computer science principles, digital citizenship, and then moving to the middle school, where they go through Project Lead the Way, and getting a real sample of computer science in programming and app development, and making with 3D printers, and then moving to the high school, where the focus tends to be on a topic, and now with the pathways positions, we'll see those students really dive in. So our staffing needs, what we could use to be a more functional department, to really beef up what we're doing right now. One is a digital learning specialist at the secondary level. The work that Mike Tinker has done, I cannot compliment him enough. He has been, if you've seen Ted Lasso, he's like the Ted Lasso of ed tech. He has this personality that draws people in. We need another one of him. And barring the ability to clone him, finding someone like him to work at our secondary level to really push out some of the great things that he's able to do at the elementary level. He's so busy, and I'll show in a second, he's so busy at the elementary level that his ability to get to the secondary level is hampered by that. He's got too many requests to come in, which is a good problem to have. The second piece is a junior network administrator and a level 2 technician. That would be one position. Our network is growing all the time. Our devices, the number of devices we have, are growing all the time. We're currently in a position where the rapid rate of technology growth and with the number of people we have in our department and their ability to troubleshoot those things, it's becoming difficult to manage. So if you look at the device levels per building, the column, it's a little small, I apologize, hopefully it's better on the printout, but on the left-hand side, you've got the school in 2019-20, and then the right-hand side for each one is 2020 to present. So you can see at Bryantville, there were 250 student devices and 85 faculty devices originally when we started pre-COVID and now post-COVID, there are 105 staff devices and 450 student devices. And you can see the difference in each school. It's obviously grown in each, where our biggest growth was at the high school, and we're, at over 140 devices just for staff alone, where that would have been, that would have been 2 elementary staff buildings. And that number right there is difficult to chase. Add to it the 800 or so Chromebooks that we have that our students are using. It makes things challenging. And then to look at the way our work tickets break down, we have a program called School Dude. I don't like the name either, but we have email tickets. The tickets are all created through email, so staff member can just email helpdesk@pembrokek12.org, and it automatically creates a ticket so we can track what's happening in our department, and then we can also track who completes the ticket, how long it took, that sort of thing. And as you can see over time, right on the left-hand side is the current day. You can see that our media technician, Ken Cruz, who does an unbelievable job as a one-man show, is completing near 50% of the tickets throughout the district. He is at, I have the exact number in a second. And then from there, the other 4 of us are sort of splitting the tickets. And that split, what that ends up looking like is that some people are doing things outside of what their regular job would entail. For example, our software and data manager has done 97 tickets outside of what her normal regular job is. She's completed 139 total tickets, 97 of which are outside of what her scope of work is. It's because she's available, or someone comes in and says, hey, this thing's broken, and they're carrying the laptop. We've decided that telling them to fill out a ticket when they have a broken laptop is not a good business practice. So
I've never filled out a ticket, Brittany, just so you know.
well,
I don't
you have a
even know where to
special
find
email
them.
that we get stuff from. It's fine.
So you're saying the digital learning specialist, every one of her things was outside of her normal?
Yeah.
His-
Yep.
Everything was
Yeah, every
outside.
ticket he completes is outside of what he's supposed to be doing. His goal, the goal for his position is to ed tech coaching, co-teaching, meeting with teachers,
Just
meeting with students, working with
theoretically,
students.
no tickets.
Exactly. Yes, in practice, that would be perfect. Yeah. And you can see how those numbers have changed over time. Again, what Mr. Cruz has done is really remarkable here. He completed 680 tickets last year. He's already completed, and now this number is from the first week of March. He's probably added another 30 or 40 to that number right there. I mean, he's closing in on 600 by the beginning of April. We have a platform that we use to track ed tech coaching. So this is the work that Mr. Tinker is doing. If you can see here his total interactions by building. He has spent a considerable amount of time meeting with elementary school teachers. He is housed at Habermock, which is, in his own words, he had said when we looked at this together, he said, I need to get out of the building that I'm in more. And I said, Mike, you're doing what people want you to do in that building. That's fine. It's okay to have lots of interactions there and to have those marked. I get where he wants to spread it so that it's even amongst the 3 buildings. But he is getting to all 3 buildings at the elementary level. And you can see his daily interactions with staff. He's meeting with up to 4 staff a day. And these are formal in-class co-teaching or sitting down one-on-one during a teacher's prep in the buildings. This does not include the hey, I just have a question stuff, which is our favorite time of the year is the beginning of the school year, when it's, I've just got a quick question for you. And we have notebooks that we walk around for the quick questions, which is great. Some device needs for next year, looking at replacing laptops for our administrators throughout the district. It is their turn in the 3-year cycle. A replacement of some student Chromebooks. We are now getting to a point where we've replaced all the devices that have aged out. Chromebooks are good for about 7 years on the software updates. What that looks like on a physical standpoint is a different story. They don't necessarily look like they last 7 years to us. That being said, we have some devices that are no longer supported by the warranty at HP. So those are devices that we have to cannibalize and try and fix ourselves. Anything we can't fix ourselves becomes a dead device. We can't send it back for warranty repair. So the fear there is we've got about 780 of those devices that are out of warranty now. And we purchased 200 this past year. Those are all ready to be in production. Some of them are in production right now. They replaced devices that had aged out, could no longer be used for MCAS. So that's our big thing. We have to make sure the devices are updated for MCAS. Also some student iPads. We have, as I'm sure you know, eventually you have an Apple device and they no longer support the updates for it. We're running into some of those situations with our iPads. And then desktop replacement for computer science and digital art classes as part of our Pathways programs. Some hardware and equipment needs. All of these with the exception of PaperCut. I love that screensaver. All of these with the exception of PaperCut, which is the second one, these are E-rate projects. So we would get a 40% subsidy from the federal government if we were to complete these. Universal power supply backups, the YBot sensors, which is, think of it as it's like a digital assistant. You can deploy one in a school building and it'll tell you where the network traffic is coming from, what problems are happening on your network that you can fix, and then it ranks them sort of in order of importance of things to handle. So that works as like a digital network engineer. Replacing our backup solution is another one. And then the last one, and in my mind of this list, the AP replacement at North Pembroke is the most important to get done. Those are end-of-life devices, the access points, which is it's over the door over there, the little white box with the lights on it. That's where we get the Wi-Fi from. Those access points are aging out. So it would be replacing those, again, with the E-rate money, with some E-rate money. The last thing I would like to do is to use a cloud-based print server called PaperCut. It's a one-time setup fee. It would allow us to really monitor and track exactly what's happening with printing in our district. We'd be able to allow every device to print to every printer, or we can allow every device to print to some printers. So we can really manage exactly what's happening with printing. You can have it so that students can only print from 7:30 to 3:30, or that they could print only to certain printers, or staff can print a job from their computer and have it waiting for them in another building, where they can have it released to them. So there's some options that are available to us there. And it's a very popular product throughout the Commonwealth that other districts are using. Some of our software needs highlights. These are our bigger ticket items that staff are using. GoGuardian, probably the largest one. Second would be Google Enterprise Edition. I sat here, I think it was 4 years ago, and promised that Google would be free forever because that was what their education platform stood for. And then the pandemic happened, and now we pay for Google. So in the summary of requests, preserving existing staff software and programs, $986,000. Addition of staff, $125,000. Device replacement cycle, $335,000. And hardware replacement cycle, $52,000. Next steps, developing that secondary digital learning specialist, a junior network administrator position, continued expansion of PLTW and supporting that, as well as the career pathways. I'm actually really excited. I don't know that this information is even out yet, but Mary Ellen Gates and I spoke this afternoon. We're going to have summer interns this year for the first time in the tech department as part of the grant money that was afforded to us. So we'll be able to have some summer tech interns helping out with us that are high school students. We also have senior project. We have 5, I believe it's 5. I'll be overseeing 5 student help desk interns. They're going to be working with the tech department as part of their senior project, and they're going to do stuff with our network and hardware repair, and hopefully we'll get them down to the elementary schools and middle schools to do some co-teaching with our STREAM and STEM specialists, which would be cool. And that is it for me. Just a little bit.
Mike, we'll let you start with you.
Sure. Thanks a lot for coming here tonight and presenting this to us. This is pretty clear and understand a lot of information in here, I'll say, which is good. The question I had, and I'm not sure if you went through this while I was jotting down some notes, on the page where you talk about the Connect Hub data, class visits, the digital learning specialist, you mentioned it was his home office in Hobomok.
Yes.
He's there roughly, interactions around 50% of the time. is when he's there, did you say he's also doing stuff for people in other schools
Yes.
as well? Okay,
Yep,
so
he's district-wide.
the reason it's so large in Hemlock is just because that's just where he's working from. Okay.
Yeah,
I just
you
want to
have
make
that-
sure that he wasn't like getting stuck, like, oh.
No,
you're-
no, no. He's got that, again, he's got this personality. We should have him come, because when you meet him, you get it, you see it. And people will pop into his office and start to talk, and he'll say, oh, we could turn this into a lesson. You know, oh, it'd be fun to do this thing that we could do, and I can help you with that. And he's got this way about him that people they're like, okay, I'll give it a try. And teachers aren't necessarily willing to do that all the time.
Yeah.
To take chances like that. But he makes it comfortable for them.
That's great.
Yeah.
And then, so you're looking to develop a secondary, someone to help him out, basically? So he could probably, I'd imagine, to travel, so he can move around to the other schools a little bit more?
It
or-
would allow him to do that position
And
at the
less
elementary
tickets.
level, and it would take the secondary level off of my plate.
Okay.
So that I'd be able to do that as well as the department stuff, the budget stuff, repair stuff that comes up.
Your real job.
Yeah, yeah. I really want to be in the classroom. That's what
Yeah.
I really want to do.
All right, and I think that's actually all that wait, I had one more, I had another. No, I think that was all I had for questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Susie?
Thank you for putting this together. They're big numbers.
Yes.
They're big
Yep.
numbers.
Yep.
When I see big numbers, I start crunching.
Mhm.
So Aaron's already heard some of this.
Sorry. Aaron's heard some of this, but as I look at these numbers, and I also look at the labor intensiveness of the days for the entire staff, I'm wondering, are there any financial benefits if we considered through the course of the day having a tech-free day or a tech-free time period once a week? And I see this from two different angles. One, no tickets coming in on that day, and just a hit the pause button. It's not something we could necessarily implement immediately, but could you see any savings? Could you see any benefits to working the existing tickets that developed prior to this pause, whatever time period that might be? But then I look at it from our students and what they've been through in the last 3 to 4 years. And I think my phrasing to you, Aaron, was I feel like our student population and our staff are maybe a little concussed. They've been hit with a brick on their head the last 3 years because of the pandemic. So could we reap some unintended consequences if we took this type of an approach, just maybe even as a test? It might be the only opportunity some of the students are off of a device for a defined period of time, but can you see any savings? Because I'm looking at, the staffing number, the device replacement, the hardware. I'd be interested in if there's any benefit to considering something like that besides just the budget. So,
I don't know of any districts that have done it.
and I don't either, and that's why I'm just
Well, we did
throwing-
it here at North in the fall when we had no internet.
That's
I
true.
can tell you.
That is true.
It was bumpy. It was definitely
Yeah,
bumpy.
yeah.
But I think there was, teachers that really kind of relished going back to
Yeah.
traditional
Yep.
teaching without a device.
Yep.
But that wasn't everybody, and that was short-lived.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
it. It's not something I don't think that we could just do immediately, because again, the staffing's gonna have to pivot on their approaches to their lesson plans. But I just think about it, and I think about the mental health components that we're trying to address as well. So it's something to ponder. Also, as you talk about Mr. Tinker, and I've not met him.
You're gonna love 'em.
But I think about what you're saying he's doing, and he's being very well received. Could you partner some of what he's doing, or could we record some of the sessions he's doing and ultimately put those actual live sessions up as a repository so that staff, instead of waiting for him to come to them, could access it? And would that be a benefit?
We are in the process of doing that.
And could that be something that you would partner with, say, some of the students that are going to be
We are in the process of doing that.
beautiful,
Yeah,
beautiful?
yeah.
Because I see the green screen, and I'm like, what a
Yep.
great opportunity to continue to grow the platform. Okay,
Yeah.
great.
The help desk kids in the spring are, part of what they're going to be doing is going to be creating tutorials.
Beautiful.
Myself, Aaron Tinker, and Mike Tinker have been building a tutorial library that we're hoping to publish soon. And we also are going to have a help desk course, a semester course next year, that, from what I understand, the enrollment has been, the numbers are there for it to run, and that will give us the opportunity to have students being able to be hands-on throughout the course of the year, and won't just be that finite period of time from March and April and May. We'll have them for an entire semester.
And do we, if, as part of that, in addition to tutorials, is there just documentation on kind of those step-by-step through? I've, you know, in other lifetimes, I've had to do that, including like the screenshots and push this button because.
Oh, yeah.
So I just, you know, I think you've answered basically yes to everything except for, you know, the kind of the, I threw something to see if it would stick against the wall thing. So thank you, but it makes me feel good that you're doing that because I think that's going to help build this program, but hopefully support your team as well. So, okay, I think that was it for me.
Thank you.
you.
Well, first of all, I love the idea of a tech-free day. Like, even if it's once a month, can you imagine? I mean, we're so stuck on technology. But given that, I just want to say I can't believe how much you get done with the little resources you have. And so I just want to say thank you very much because I'm looking at everything that you've accomplished so far. And, you know, I know we have a long way to go and there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of funding needed. But I do really appreciate the E-rate, where, I mean, you're looking for savings, which is amazing, and I really appreciate that. And appreciate all of the hard work that goes into everything you do. I know that everybody is sort of overworked, and but you're appreciated. I wish we could give you all of it, but as you know, we have a very strict budget to go by, but it doesn't mean you don't deserve all of it. So I just want to say thanks.
Again, thanks for the presentation. I think this may be more of an Aaron question of, we know this is the new world we live in, right? And so there's always going to be this device slash hardware slash, it's our norm moving forward. What sort of mechanisms can we continue to put place in our budgeting process, whether it's a capital plan or something that we know there's going to be $500,000 every year we're going to have to dump into this to keep us either at level or progressing forward as we need to do.
Sure, so we have some money in our budget for that. It's not $500,000. We have about $100,000 that was set aside as part of a 3-year lease purchase where we partnered with the town and they did 100 and we matched the 100. Obviously, that doesn't meet the needs as spelled out in the plan, but I think it's a larger conversation than what we're putting in our operating budget. It's a conversation about the partnership with families, and, you know, obviously we have some work to do at the elementary level and whether or not a one-to-one device is the right model for kids, but I think you'd be hard pressed to say that 7 through 12 students need their own device here in our district and really anywhere. And can we think about it in a way where the burden isn't just on us, but we're sharing it with families? So is there a student fee? Is there a tech fee? All of that.
Yeah,
still working
and I've
through.
been part of districts that's
Yep.
been a dialogue, so that makes sense and something we've got to think about.
Right, and I think it's important there's a lot of districts that are one-to-one. Obviously, we use our money from the CARES reimbursement. When you have a new building project in your town, it is very easy to get technology as part of that building cost. So everybody around us that has a new high school or a new middle school or a new middle high school, the technology is in there. It's in the cost of the building. So we don't have any recent building projects like that where we can bake in the cost. So this is truly an addition to our operating budget, where in those districts it was really part of their MSBA costs.
Well, in tribute to using the extra money we did have during COVID to kind of get us in a good place, and then I think, like you said, we need to continue to look at what options we're going to have moving forward and how do we maintain and sustain, because teachers are getting used to this as a platform they're teaching on now, and so everything's based on that. So how do we continue that? And like you said, it's not necessarily needed for every level and every grade, and how do we best use it now that it's come full circle?
Thank you.
One quick thing too, just along with what you said, Lance. I would say that the 3-year replacement cycle is also kind of a way to manage the budget, I'd imagine too, isn't it? So that you're not, you figure this is the best, most optimal time to hold on to the devices.
Yeah, what we found with just the wear and tear that on the staff side of the devices, and then usually by the end of that cycle, the technology is not able to hold up to what is being asked of it. That had been the case for a long time. Now with almost all of our platforms cloud-based, they're accessing them on the internet, so we're hopeful for things, but you know, basically the way we've broken it up is that we've got our secondary staff on one cycle, our elementary staff on another cycle, and our administrators on another cycle. So in that 3-year
Yeah.
process.
That makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah.
Surprisingly money-wise, I think it's pretty close.
You can pick facilities or
Yeah,
athletics.
which one you
It's
want
up to you.
first?
Oh, the X3.
Ooh, you've selected athletics.
There we are with
I think that was the agenda showed.
Okay.
All right, good evening. My name is Brian Phillips, Director of Athletics and Facilities. We'll start, simply here with our mission. And obviously you can see it's to educate and empower through athletics. It's clear that we are an educational-based athletics program, and athletics is an extension of the classroom. It's important that we take pride in being a student athlete, and it's most important that our students graduate, and our coaches understand that, and they push that, and how important that is. The second part of our mission is to empower. And, we want to make sure our coaches are transformational, not transactional. They're developing our student athletes that when they leave Pembroke, they have an experience that they can talk about that's positive, and that they have some mentors, So we'll get right into it. First slide here, just some accolades. So I want to start on the left side. As you can see, and I'll go down one by one. I know it's a lot, but they're important. Obviously, we're in the Patriot League, so we have 73 Patriot League All-Stars. And to give some context to this slide, the 2022, this starts our spring season of last year. And the 2023 is this school year, so it's the fall of this year and the winter sports season. So last year's spring, this year's fall, and this year's winter. So it's 3 sports seasons in total. 3 Patriot League MVPs, 2 All-State champions, so they are the best in the entire state, not just in the division, but it's a tremendous accomplishment. And that was an indoor track in the 55-meter event. There's only been 2 other schools in the history of Massachusetts who had the male and the female accomplish that. So it's really impressive. 8 qualified for indoor track nationals, another tremendous feat. They got to compete at the New Balance Center in Boston, which was awesome. A bunch of all-scholastics from the Patriot Ledger, Boston Herald, and Boston Globe. Eastern Mass All-Stars in soccer, Eastern Mass Division II Coach of the Year in boys soccer, Adam Scott. 10 teams qualified for the state tournament, and 3 for the round of 16. So just a little context there as well. The state tournament is now run statewide rather than just sectionals. So when you make it to the round of 16, that's the round of 16 in your division in the entire state, not just in your sectional. So really big accomplishment on that end. And then 5 Patriot League Fish Division titles. Briefly on the right-hand side here, just to make sure that we're following through on our mission of educational-based athletics, and to give some evidence. Last year's graduating class at Pembroke High School, the top 3 students were all student athletes, which is really impressive. 2 being multi-sport. Top 10 of the graduating class were all student athletes. 5 multi-sport, and top 20, 14 out of 20 were student athletes. So to support that push of making sure we're doing our work in the classroom first, an extension of that, it's come to fruition. And just to add one more, college commits, we have 19 student athletes who have committed to play athletics in college as of today, which is really impressive. By far more than the past 2 years that I've been here. And I think, talking to some other people, I think it's been a while since we've reached that number. So really excited about that. As we move forward to our fall sports here, we have 9 fall sports at the varsity level, and obviously there's other levels that fall into that, but 9 sports that we have at Pembroke High School. You can see in the top orange, that's the enrollment numbers for Pembroke High School, and then we'll match that up in the bottom to the numbers of student athletes who are participating. So on a 5-year rolling average on the bottom, we average about 331 student athletes who've been playing fall sports, and that enrollment obviously is higher than currently what we're at of 800 over a 5-year average. But the most important part here, although the enrollment is going down, our athletic participation is staying solid at 42%, which is better than the 5-year average. And it's really important to see some of the bounce back. 2020 is kind of that COVID year. We'll see some of the numbers are being outliers, being lower. So it's really good to see a bounce back and to see this number stay steady throughout that enrollment, going down. As we transition here to the winter season, we have 10 winter sports at the varsity level. Obviously, the top has stayed the same in the orange with the enrollment, but you can see the changes here to the bottom. 279 participated in winter sports this year. Once again, that outlier of the 2020 was a 248. But over the 5-year average, once again, we're staying strong. And we actually are a 2% increase in our percent enrollment participating in athletics. That's a 5% jump from 2018. So we're seeing some good numbers. They're staying strong. And then our last sports season, our spring season,
And once again, the numbers are looking really good. In this spring, this number is actually a little bit higher. I made these slides last week where we've had some more registered for the spring season. We're about 300 kids registered right now, which is tremendous. We're probably close to a 40% enrollment in the spring, which is by far the best that we've seen. So I think there's a lot of evidence in these numbers of that our coaches are providing a tremendous experience to our community. It's something that people want to be a part of, and our student athletes are having a really good time being a part of these teams, and they want to come back and they want to join, and it's been really powerful to see these numbers. There was certainly a concern with COVID and that drop off to see what it would look like moving forward, but I think we're doing pretty good on that end. All right, to jump into the budget, some of the overview here. The biggest pieces you can see is our coaching stipends. Those coaching stipends are the aggregate of those 3 sports seasons of the fall, winter, and spring. That's roughly 59 coaching stipends that make up that total, just to give some numbers to that. And obviously here we have some contracted services, officials, supplies, and equipment. This next slide will break down the services, and our biggest cost here is obviously our rentals. The ice time that we pay for our boys and girls hockey program at Pembroke Arena. Once again, there is new ownership of that arena, and that new ownership has raised the cost on us, so we don't really have much control over that. But both our boys and girls program are at Pembroke, which is a change of the past. Our girls are at Bridgewater Arena, so both our hockey programs are at that arena. Gymnastics, we use MGC Pembroke, and we use the Hanover YMCA, where we pay costs to utilize those facilities, and we use the Kingsbury Club for our pool, for our swim programs. So those are our big 3 costs from our contracted services. Obviously, our league dues and entry fees, that's an MIA and a Patriot League fee that we have to pay. And moving on down the slide, officials, that cost goes up every year. It's about $2 to $4 per sport. The official price goes up every year. That's just a cost that is built in. And then our consumable supplies, our athletic training room, and things of that nature. So that's really the breakdown from the contracted services. Moving forward to fiscal year 24, some of our athletic department goals. We utilize Mass General Brigham, which has really become a massive a massive force in that space, in the medical space. They've really taken over a ton, not only just here in Massachusetts, but globally. And the resources they provide are second to none. They're really top notch. Our athletic trainer is an employee of Mass General Brigham, Josh, and his relationship ability with our student athletes is tremendous. I think no matter who you ask.
Everybody loves Trainer Josh.
Everybody loves Trainer Josh. No matter what sport, no matter what sex, no matter what age, they love Josh. He really helps them out, whether it's return to play, whether it's just taping them up before a game, working them out in the weight room. He wears a ton of hats for us. He does a great job wearing those hats. So we're fortunate to have him. Some other things that we've done, actually already this year, was provide an ACL workshop. We had a student athlete on the girls basketball team tear her ACL last year, so we had a doctor come in and do a workshop to our entire girls basketball program. So it was an awesome hands-on experience where there's a ton of actionable information that they could take from it. We do some concussion training. That is, let's continue advancements in concussions and the training and the rehab and how we can learn from that. So providing some of those resources. And then lastly, our strength conditioning program, which is really taken off. It's hard to find an open space, an open half hour, an open hour in our weight room. All our student athletes, from our cheerleading team to our hockey program to our football program, is utilizing that space, which I think is telling you what they're getting from that and how they feel in there. It's comfort. It's a place of comfort that feels welcome, but it's a place of development and growth, and some really good things are happening in our weight room. Moving on down, obviously providing as much student athlete professional development as we can. We currently have 3 MIA student ambassadors who partake in a lot of MIA events for us. The next one coming up is on April 28th. It's the National Women in Sports Day. That's going to take place in Faneuil Hall from the MIA, which will have some females going to that. We've had them also partake in a DEI class that is the MIA has put on. So we continue to take part of that. And then looking forward, I'm looking to create a captain's council for next year, involving the captains of all our sports teams, and adding a syllabus to that, from leadership to development, just some things that can add on to their experience that hopefully that we can have some good takeaways from. Obviously, the importance of relationships with our youth programs. I think we're in a good spot with that. I frequent, have those conversations and work with those parties that I think we have a good line of communication and a good relationship that, we're working hand in hand. And obviously this year with our 8th grade waiver, that's something that we've had to work even closer with those folks with, and it's working out well. Last year we introduced our live stream through our Huddle software, which happened in our basketball and our gymnasium, also in our turf field. So we got a live stream from field hockey events to our football events to our boys and girls soccer to our basketball to our wrestling. Whatever takes place in those spaces, we can live stream, which we had last time I looked, we had over 11,000 views so far up to date. So people are watching it. The feedback has been tremendous, and thanks to PAC TV, they've really helped partner with us on that and make sure that's something we can provide. And then, obviously, improvement of the athletic facility is something that is always going to be a part of this. There's not a ton of spaces in town, that people can use. So the high school turf and grass fields becomes that space. There's very few hours that field is not used 7 days a week, 365. Someone's trying to get on with us the grass or the turf. So I think the grass fields obviously needs some grass. At times of the year there's a lack of it, because of the usage. So we have irrigation in a big part of that, but obviously some seeding and things of that nature will go a long way. And lastly, the tennis courts, which I'll talk about here soon, is certainly a need for us. And that's a big project that we're looking to hopefully move forward with, as I'll talk about here pretty soon. This next slide is just community service. In sum, we had over 138 of our student athletes participate up to this point, over 428 hours donated from our student athletes, and that really is super important. I asked all our coaches to make sure that their team does at least one community service project per season, and I think that's something that we can easily give, whether it's practice time, whatever time it might be, but it's so important, so critical, and our student athletes love to take part and love to be a part of those programs. So our volleyball, our golf programs, Coach Hall, our girls and boys soccer programs, there's so many opportunities that our student athletes take advantage of. We have a ton of youth camps that our varsity members help coach at, help show face at, and help be a part of to hopefully help that transition from our youth to our high school level. So from our coaches to our student athletes, it's such an important piece of what they do. All right, to get to the end here for our athletic overview, capital items. So our tennis court repairs, we have 6 tennis courts out at the end of Learning Lane that are certainly up for repair. We're going to get them replaced in terms of our cracks repaired for this tennis season to make sure that they're playable, and hopefully that will give us some time in the near future to keep those courts playable. But those 6 courts are certainly up to be repaired. Fortunately, our boys tennis coach was a past president of the USTA, the U.S. Tennis Association. He has a lot of really good contacts. They have a grant funding program, so they're going to come out and do an observation of our tennis courts. And because we have 6, they can match up to a $40,000 grant. So that could be potentially a huge cost, a huge piece of this cost, because this is not a little cost. But that can cover everything from courts to fencing to anything in that space. So, as we all know, that's not just for Pembroke Athletics, our town. We have a ton of community members who are constantly out there throughout the school day, on the weekends, after school, which gets a ton of usage, and that's a big priority for us. Our turf field press box, that's another huge piece for us. We're probably one of the few high schools that doesn't offer that, and it's certainly a part of the experience from not only our high school level, but our youth level. We host some big youth football games out there and soccer games. So to have that space for an announcer, for our officials, for our TV and our camera, it really is important. It helps that experience. It looks a lot better than putting somebody up in the lift. If we get some of those windy days, that lift gets a little bit sketchy at times. So my hope is that that's something that we can move on and add to our turf field complex. And lastly, is a scoreboard for our softball field. That's obviously a need. And I priced that out. It's about $15,000 to add that to our softball field. So those are my big 3 capital items for our athletic department.
I'm just going to talk about each of them for 1 second. So obviously the tennis court repairs is something that we would look to the capital warrant at the town level to do. The turf field press box has been a conversation here for the 17 years we've been a high school. I'm excited that Brian is willing to undergo yet again another iteration of this. We do have some plans from other towns. We have interested community members. Obviously there's interested groups in town. There are some policies that you all have in place that govern some of that work, so we're just working through that. And then the scoreboard for the softball field, we do have potential to use the community preservation money that we got for field improvements, but we haven't closed out those funds yet. So there's some opportunity there once we've done the repairs that we put in the scope of the project to have some funds available for the scoreboard.
I mean, I love the idea of the grant funding for the tennis courts. So for the racking and the tennis courts, you do have a way to do a way to do a temporary fix?
Yeah, so
for
we'll
now?
to get them sealed, we have to wait till the temperature's above 50 degrees or else they'll re-crack. But it's hopefully we can get maybe 2 years out of it. It's not a small cost, but it's certainly not a six-figure cost. Something more absorbable. But they can repair those with a sealant. It's like a 3-stage process they add to it. It fills it, that crack gets tight again, and it's playable.
You have any ballpark of what that costs?
About 13,000 roughly.
13,000?
Yep.
Okay.
Thanks for, sorry, I don't know if it's allergies kicking in. Thank you for the presentation. How does our enrollment with our various sports compare with the surrounding schools? Are they all hovering around the high 30% to 40%, and what is your goal for enrollment typically?
So in terms of our school enrollment, we're the second smallest school in the Patriot League. In terms of school enrollment, I think only Hanover is the smallest school than Pembroke in the Patriot League. So I don't know the other schools' exact numbers, to be honest, but I think we're in a really good spot. I think we're obviously looking at the trends over the 5 years where that shows that we're trending in the right direction. So if we have 40% of our school enrollment participating in athletics, I think that's a really high number. I think that's a really high number.
Just wondered, and then you talked about different rules and things, so I won't ask about partnering and all that for the press box. But one of the fastest growing sports apparently is pickleball. I mean, as we consider doing this tennis court revamp, I don't know if you can combine the two.
So you can. So we talked to them. So we have 6 courts. To be tournament eligible, you need 5 courts. And we have actually 1 court, if you go down Learning Lane, tucked in the back left, that is kind of covered in shade and trees, and we don't use it a ton, but that could be easily a pickleball court, and that USTA funding would go towards tennis and or pickleball. So potentially if we need a community kind of to sell that, a little bit, that might be a good selling point.
Okay, great. That's all I was wondering, because I know it's trending. So.
Yeah, it certainly is, yeah.
Great, thanks.
The repairs that are needed to be done on the tennis courts, are these, you had mentioned that you could patch it up and they would last for like 2 years or whatever. Could that still possibly lead to more injuries for people playing tennis out there?
So I
Because if
think,
they're-
I don't think it's so much injuries. I think it's just more the purity of the game. The way that if the
Yeah.
ball hits a crack, the weeds constantly come through the cracks. It's just
Yeah.
more of the purity of that sport. Any cracks are a big no.
Yeah. And I think the other question I have is, out of curiosity, does the strength and conditioning also include like nutrition? Are the kids taught about the right
Yeah.
things to eat and all that stuff?
So I think Josh certainly, like I said, he wears a lot of hats, so his time is spread thin. And we have a certain allotment of hours we use him over our school year. So that's something potentially in the summertime might be a good add-on because there's not so many practices that take place. That's more just a strength and conditioning program.
Yeah.
But throughout the season, unless a student athlete is coming to him one-on-one and asking, there's no designated time or class or anything to that.
Yeah,
But
okay.
the summertime might be a good time to add something like that,
And I also want to say the increase in participation over the last 5 years is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So congratulations on that. It seems like our sports are pretty much, it seems like they're all moving in the right direction too, so.
I think we have some good positive
Congratulations.
momentum. Yep. Yeah.
And Brian, I just want to echo all the great stuff. I mean, my kids have been very active in youth sports, and to see the connection that the high school level and the secondary level is having with youth sports has been great, because I think that's going to help contribute to your numbers, right? You're seeing that connection, a chance to go to camp with the high school kids and play, a chance to have them come to your practices and learn. Have the coaches have come to our youth sport meetings with our board meetings and other things, and so that connection, I think, is helping add to this, because the kids see an opportunity for them at another level, right? And I was just talking, I know you're going to have a big 8th grade group that loves sports coming up, and so it's going to be exciting to see them, and hopefully get a baseball team at a freshman level, and all those things, because I think the youth sport is growing in the town, and the partnership that you've had has been strong to see that happen. So great work there, and exciting success the teams are having, right? I think the other piece too is how can potentially you use Huddle with some of your rental groups and have them be able to watch the games that happen in the gym that they're playing at and maybe charging you a fee for it and get some help.
It's a good idea. I know our youth football programs, we actually got them to count up on our Huddle, so they utilize them as well.
Yep, yeah, so just revenue opportunity.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yep.
Part two?
Alrighty, let's get some facilities up here.
Oh, no, that's Allison over there. It's the clock reset.
Alrighty, so we'll transition now to our maintenance department overview. Let's see. All right, so just looking back on some of our facility improvements up to this point, I have the new rooftop units in italicized here because we have started this project, but there's no physical units up on the high school yet. We've started some of the initial, obviously, contract agreement. It's a massive job. We're looking at 7 new units up on the high school, and that job should be completed by the end of the school year is the hope. We're working through some, yeah, we're working through some supply chain
It's
issues
supposed to
with,
be done by October, so.
yeah, the York units, the model that we went with, and it's not just York, but they're all backlogged, and there's certain chips and pieces that everyone's dealing with of getting those in. But it is the hope by the end of the school year we will have 7 new rooftop units at the high school. Over April vacation, April break, there's going to be a lighting project taking place at the high school through the Town Green Communities Project. That's simply replacing some of our old lighting with LED lighting, hopefully improving the efficiency, obviously, in the lighting in some of our common areas, our hallways, and spaces that need it. We've also, that is not in part of this phase. And then our science lab gas fittings have been, that job has been completed over our Christmas break time. So those are the 3 kind of big projects that have taken place so far. There's certainly day in, day out projects that have taken place too. So we transition here to our North Pembroke. We've had a phone system upgrade over the past year. So now all 5 schools are on the same hub. It's from the same communications company. We can call from school to school. All 5 schools are now up to date with Kerry's Law and all the laws that keep us up to date in terms of emergencies and 911 calls and things that way, which has been a big upgrade. And it's also been a reduction in phone bill costs, so a good side benefit that way. At North, we've started the playground water drainage project where over February vacation, we've removed some of the curbs, which has helped that drainage kind of run, if you're thinking about this playground here, run away from the school. Because as any kind of rainstorms at all, kind of puddles, there's probably about, I don't know how many years of wood chips that have continued to pile up without drainage underneath it. So those continue to hold on to water with curbs that are tall, don't allow that water to drain. So hopefully we can avoid a massive drain project by reducing some of that curb, some of those chips, and getting that water to naturally run away. It's hard to tell fully in the wintertime when the groundwater's high, but we'll get a better look at that over time. We've replaced a lot of, repairs a lot of HVC units, including the mini split unit in one of our electrical rooms here. You know, we had an issue through our cold February weekend where we had some coils go in some of our units, and we had some flooding and issues we had to clean up and repair. So that was part of that unit that we had to replace. We've also out back here replaced a new asphalt ramp that you can see goes all the way down now to our irrigation shed down by the wastewater treatment. It helped with that drainage. There was a hill that butts up to it, so the water now flows down without eroding all that area. That looks to hold up, been holding up well. Moving down, Hobmock, it's got the same foam system upgrade. That was the other school that was needing an upgrade. So they've got the same upgrade as North Pembroke. The fire alarm panel has been replaced over there to get us up in compliance, as is the generator transfer switch. Those are 2 big projects that happened most recently through our Christmas and our our December and our February timeframe where we got those accomplished. So 2 big projects that we were looking to finish. At the middle school, we repaired the hot water tank over December break, which was certainly in need. And we've also replaced a mini split unit in one of the MDF rooms to make sure that temperature is regulated and controlled. Obviously, a lot of technology in there, that's an important place. And in Bryanttville, we've replaced the art room floor. The gym roof project is something we are looking into, and we are trying to move into that sooner than later. It hasn't gone as smoothly as we would have liked. That is on the radar. I've contacted multiple vendors. It's from the state list to get some bids on that. We've only had one member of the Massachusetts state bid list have interest in the project. A lot of people are too busy or not interested. So we need more, and we are certainly working on that. Okay, moving forward here to a budget overview. As you can see, our biggest cost here is our custodian personnel. We have 18 full-time custodians divided over our 5 different schools within our district, which certainly make up a big part of our budget from our maintenance side. Our contracted services here, you'll see on the next slide, of 425, it's broken up into more detail so we can see what that looks like. Our repairs, 41% of our budget goes to repairs, which that is a number that's going to continue to increase. Our buildings aren't getting newer, and obviously with more age, we have more issues. And some of these are expensive issues like our HVAC projects. Completing that high school one will be a big piece of that, but through our elementary schools, we have plenty of other issues that we can take care of and repair, and those are costly. From our HVAC, our electrical, and our plumbing certainly make up that 41% of our contracted services. Also in here is our wastewater treatment. We have to replace some pipes and some things at our wastewater treatment plant behind the high school, which I don't know how much we want to talk about wastewater treatment plants, but there's stuff we need to make sure that functions properly, that we're working on currently. And then as you can see the rest here from our custodial supplies, preventative maintenance, and our miscellaneous. So that 425 is our contracted services overview. As we move forward here to some of our goals exterior-wise through our next fiscal year, on our capital project, 3 new HVAC units at our elementary schools, which will, like I said, will be a huge help to some of those repair costs and bringing those back down. At our high school, we have some leaky roofs as well. When we get a good amount of rain in our gym, we have some friendly buckets that know where they belong and come out every rainstorm, as we do on the 3rd floor. So in our atrium, so getting our roof evaluated in some of those areas will help that water control. And then our rear courtyard, the bricks and fencing, it's, some of our students throughout the day will eat their lunch out there, they'll hang out there. So that those bricks are certainly are degrading in many areas. That fencing is aging, to say it nicely. So that's an area that seeks some improvement. Bryantville, once again, our gym roof needs repair. That's the most important thing we're looking at to accomplish. Air conditioning in the library is something that we've been going back and forth with, trying to repair and regulate without too much success. And then some of the columns exteriorly just need some painting. Hobmock playground water control is another area that we're looking to assess and evaluate to see how we can improve that. Like a lot of these playgrounds, it's probably just an accumulation of chips being added over time without much drainage added to those. So hopefully we can easily fix that control problem. The middle school, a walkway from the parking lot to the gym is a major access point for them. I know that's been a talking point for the past year or so. So I think that's a project we'll hope to complete without too many issues over there. A water station by the gymnasium is a need, and the gym bleachers are aging as well. So we're looking hopefully over time to look at the gym bleachers. And finally here at North Pembroke, the playground water control, like I said, I mentioned the curb control, removing that. Hopefully that will take care of it. If not, we'll have to look into more drainage. And then just some power tools for our custodial staff. Transition to the interior. At our high school, flooring in our main traffic areas, our CAF, some of the hallways, it's always something that's just constantly, part of our maintenance plan that's going to be needed. And we started last year a painting cycle in the high school. We'll continue year 2 of that. Hopefully over time, all the classrooms and hallways and columns and things of that nature will be painted to keep them up to speed. Our gymnasium in locker rooms also need some love, so we'll hope to look in the summertime to improve some of that. At Bryantville, one of our boilers needs to be repaired. In addition to some interior security cameras is always a part of our school safety. Same thing at our middle school. We've got a hot water tank repaired this year, but our boiler, one of our boilers over there needs to be repaired, as well as the addition of some interior security cameras. North Pembroke, another boiler, and a ride-on floor machine would assist our floor control here. In Hobmock, security cameras and some new office and common area rugs, which are part of that February issue. So moving on down. got
Awesome.
switched? I didn't see it. And then lastly, to our parking lots, I mean, we can talk about these individually, but collectively all the way around, you can drive to any of our schools and probably throughout the town, getting to those schools and realize that we need a lot of repairs done. But importantly are some of the manhole covers and the drainage in the parking lots. You can see them sinking, which over time those will sink. And rather than just repairing the pavement up to them, that's not fixing them. They need to be cut out and dug out and manually repaired. So those are probably the big issues from a safety-wise in the parking lot. And then obviously, just having parking lots without potholes for re-entrance and stuff will go a long way for our community folks. So that is the wrap-up of our facilities overview.
Yes, thank you again, Brian. I think that my biggest question was in the contracted services overview. The smallest part was preventative maintenance. So I understand that there's probably I'm new on the board, but I understand there's probably a backlog of projects that need to be done like there is everywhere else in this town. And I'm just wondering if we could get through those projects, would you then, if you could spend more on preventative maintenance, wouldn't that save more money in the long run?
Yeah, I think so. I have a fear of some of those things we can't prevent anymore because they are overdue, like some of our rooftop units where we
Yeah.
continue to have to put repair money into that. But certainly, if we have better inspections and instead of more, update with certain issues and, preventing that will go away of getting hopefully a longer lifespan out of those.
And this is just so I can understand, but to get to that point, we need to get through some of these, or most of these projects.
Correct. Yeah.
Right, so the bulk of our preventative maintenance is really changing the belts and the filters and the HVAC units. As part of our overall plan, masonry is preventative maintenance, or repointing bricks in all the buildings. We've fallen behind on that schedule, which is some of the issues that Brian's outlined as far as the roof concerns at the high school for the atrium. That's mostly masonry. We did take some of the roofing funds when we did the MSBA repair project, as well as the debt exclusion override. Some of that did masonry, but it didn't hit all of the places that needed that. So, preventative maintenance is a concept for newer buildings, and as our buildings are
Yeah.
in their 20s and 30s, it's not really preventative maintenance anymore, right? So we're talking about things just being at end of life.
Mhm.
So.
And I think that was really all I wanted to ask about. Yeah, I think I'm good. Thanks a lot.
Susan?
I just remember, it was quite a few meetings ago where there was a discussion about the parking lots and some repairs, and then whose responsibility it was.
So we did a significant amount of parking lot repairs this summer leading into the school year. If you're pulling into North Pembroke here, that driveway that you pull in on the far side, there's a ginormous pothole that's outside of the school property. It's on Pilgrim Road, so the contractor that we used can't fill that pothole. But we've had a larger conversation with the DPW on how do we become part of the pavement management plan that the town has. The schools have never been a part of that plan, but with a new town manager, it seems as though there is some interest in really combining some of those services, whether it's pavement management or wastewater treatment operations. So we're working towards some of those efficiencies as we go through. And I know that the town is working on a master planning committee, and so some of this capital work will fall into that as well too.
That was really it. And you say wastewater, and you mentioned that we have a processing, but would that need to
Right, so
also relate to
it's
that?
rare for a school district to be responsible for their own wastewater treatment. For some reason here in Pembroke, that has never fallen into the water department. It is our responsibility, but there are other districts like Silver Lake that have treatment plants on their property that are manned by the water
Okay.
departments in those towns. So, when we.
Was that an inherited system, or was that, when this served as a Silver Lake school, was that wastewater treatment part of that process that you just inherited, or?
It fell to us, right? So
Right.
it was part of the Silver Lake Water
That
Department.
system was,
Yeah, I mean, it's been upgraded, but, obviously, but,
that was the way it.
so that's one of the hardest ones, right? So right now, we have a wastewater treatment operator that falls under our custodial contract. Those are two entirely different scopes of work.
Yeah.
It's like a one-off position for us. And, we've talked, there's no capacity with the current staff at the town to take on our water issues, but I think in the future it's something we might want to look at as far as efficiencies and cost savings.
Okay, great, great.
Sure.
Yeah, so, well, first of all, for the roof that you're having trouble with contractors, is it possible to partner with, the town to see, because we have some building projects going on now, so maybe there's like a contractor or two that, you know, maybe you could find some savings there and they'd.
Yeah, so we have money, we had asked for capital money last year for that roof at Bryanville, so we have the money associated with it. There's just, it's a small project for
The town
commercial, let's say, commercial roofing, right? It's about a $50,000 project. And I think there's such a backlog of larger, more profitable projects for them that they're not necessarily taking on smaller ones. But, you know, we have reached out to those on the bid list. We did reach out to the roofing contractors that we had when we had the larger roofing project to see if they were interested. It's not a very desirable project.
I get it. Then I know that we've seen bits and pieces of these needed items in different places and how much they cost, but is there a list somewhere of the costs? Like, am I missing it?
No, it's not in there.
It's not in-
So
okay.
some of this falls under the general department budgets for them. So, you know, obviously the new walkway from the parking lot to the gym at the middle school is a new ask for Donna. That's not something that's in the budget, but, you know, looking at having a roofing contractor come out and take a look at the roof at the high school is part of our maintenance budget, so.
Okay, so they're sort of taken from
Yeah,
different
different
departments,
pots,
so it's
yeah.
hard to put it.
Yeah.
Okay, it would be nice to, because I feel like we need to.
Sort of what's additional, you mean?
Yeah,
Right.
so.
What's the ask?
What's the ask for this year, exactly? What more, because right now, we're asking the town to give us a little bit more. It would be nice to
Itemized.
itemize and present
I
it
agree.
to, the town, so we can sort of go to bat for that money. I mean, I've already sort of gotten the 5,000 for the walkway, according to Tom.
Sounds like it, right?
According to, Bill, I mean. So anyways, that's another discussion. And then, let's see, how old is the wastewater system that we have? Do we know how old that is? Is it original?
So it's we repaired and upgraded and changed the pipes and all of that, so it's,
It's, okay, so, but it's,
It's not very new looking inside.
it's not new looking, it's not very new smelling,
Yeah.
but it is
That's
functional,
about
it is up to code, and, you know, there's a whole host of certifications required to have the plants, and they're inspected pretty regularly by the state and Department of Environmental Police, so they're in good shape. They tell us when we need things.
yeah, okay.
They're like little cement bunkers out there.
Yeah.
They're horrible and
All right.
hot.
Thank you so much. Thanks for all you do. I know it's a lot, so.
Yeah, thank you for your time.
Cool.
You guys don't need to stay. I thought it was nice to see Brandon to support Brian. I appreciate that, but you don't need to.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Up next, under my report, you have consideration for approval an overnight out-of-state field trip request for the robotics club at the high school. So the National Bot Ball Championship this year is in Orlando. So Elaine Briggs, the advisor for that group, is seeking permission for the students to go in July.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's nothing crazy about this one.
No, pretty straightforward.
Any questions regarding this before we accept a motion?
I'm excited that they're doing it. It's,
They haven't gone in a while, so the last time they went, it was in Oklahoma. I think it was 6 years ago, maybe?
yeah, my
Yeah.
son was supposed to go and he couldn't
Yeah,
for
it was a long time ago.
some other reason, but,
Cool.
Yep.
yeah, very cool.
It's a great opportunity for these kids, and according to Elaine, she plans to win it, so.
Yeah, nice. I think she will. I think they will.
Fantastic, and obviously, now that we've had good field trip discussion, we want to make sure parents are fully included on all costs and what
Yes,
might
yes,
what might lie ahead of them,
Yes,
right?
yes.
With that, I'll accept a motion to accept this overnight and out-of-state travel request.
So moved.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Okay, next is a consideration for approval of surplus materials at the middle school. So we have a seismograph machine, which was part of a partnership with Boston College from 12 years ago, where a science teacher at Hobbamock partnered with BC, and the seismograph was brought to Hobbamock, and students used it. We actually had an earthquake, a registered earthquake the year that we had it, which was great for the kids to see. The only administrator that really loved the seismograph was Donna, so when she moved from Hobbamock to the middle school, we let her take it with her, which is why it's at the middle school. But it is, they're not meant to last forever, and we've had it well past the time that it's good for, and it's not used in a way that we'd want to service it or bring it up to code. So we actually didn't pay for it. It was part of a grant through Boston College, but because we accepted the grant funds, we're asking you to take it as surplus so that we can. I think you recycle it. I think they take it back and take it apart and use the pieces for something else. Yeah. So it's not going in the trash.
Jonathan's been trying to get somebody to pick it up, but, so I think it'll be repurposed.
Yes, it is.
Sounds good.
Great.
Do we have a motion to approve making the seismograph surplus?
So moved. And seconded.
If anyone wants to see it before it goes, it's at the middle school.
Motion and a second.
Do a demonstration.
The ayes have it.
Last in my report is the consideration for approval for the 8th grade lacrosse waiver. Obviously, this was time sensitive for last week since spring sports have already started. I had a conversation with Lance last week when we realized that the huge snowstorm that never happened was going to keep us from meeting. I had been tracking with Brian the numbers of students that had registered for lacrosse, and on Tuesday of last week we had 32 girls and 30 boys that had registered. Again, we had talked about 30 kind of being the bare minimum number to have 2 teams, and having conversations with Brian, with the folks at youth sports, and with the coaches of the teams at the high school. I moved the waiver forward under the understanding that we're looking for 4 or 5 kids, both boys and girls, so 4 to 5 boys and 4 to 5 girls that are 8th graders that are able to play at a high school level, to keep those teams viable. So 32 girls signing up for lacrosse doesn't mean that 32 girls showed up yesterday for the first day of tryouts, and it doesn't mean that 32 are academically eligible for the season, and it doesn't mean that somebody's not going to get hurt. So having 4 or 5 additional athletes gives the team a little bit of breathing room to play a full JV schedule, and not have to have so many players swing. So right now, or last year for lacrosse, there were many girls that had to play half a JV game and half a varsity game. You can play half in each. And that's a lot. That's a lot to ask of kids. So, we had the students, the 8th graders, participate in tryouts on Monday, and based off of skill level, certain students were invited to continue to participate in the tryouts, because it really was a safety thing for me. I wanted to make sure that kids were able to play. We did reach out to the MIA just to confirm that we don't have to take all 8th graders that come out. And they did confirm that for us. The only rules around the waiver is that taking an 8th grader cannot cause you to cut a high school athlete, which is not the case in any of these sports. So I moved the waiver forward. This is really a check the box for you all to say that you agree with the moving of the waiver forward, but we have invited the students to tryouts. So.
That being said, do we have a motion to accept the 8th grade lacrosse waiver? Motion
Seconded.
and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. Thank you.
Last thing on the agenda,
Yes, and
Sue, Lance, and I were fortunate enough to have the opportunity, look at all those nice, pleasant words, to present at the select board meeting on March 8th. So I took them through a series of slides. I shared those slides with you all just so that you had them, because I know there was some folks that were in the audience that, the slides were pretty quick, and there was a lot of information on them. I also asked Sharon to post them on our website as well with our budget presentation, so that there, folks are looking for them. I think that the presentation was well received by the select board, but at the same time, the ask, right? So our ask is to be a bigger percentage of the town budget, to get more funding. They're struggling with how to approach the ask. There's not a lot of pots of money hanging out at the town that they can just say, oh, sure, you asked, we're going to give it to the school. I think they asked some really great questions about what we're doing. I think they're really interested in working towards balancing this year's budget, because that's really the task at hand right now, but thinking more longer term about how we approach budgeting in the town, and what the cycle looks like, and what the process looks like. I don't know if you guys feel differently.
No, I feel like it went well. I think we also are asking them to, or at least I was asking them to, have a better process to have a better process and, start earlier in the year and include Aaron in the conversation. And I've been told that they've already started to do that, and that from this point forward, when he's evaluated on certain parts of the job, Aaron's going to be part of the conversation, which is great, because we need to be part of the conversation about the budget way before it happens this year.
Well, I think I was encouraged. We saw it, obviously, through COVID. We were able to get some extra support funds from whether federal, state, buckets of money, so the town didn't necessarily need to fill some of that gap for us, but that percentage for our proportioned money to us has gone down, right? So I think that was some of our discussion is that money is not going to be there anymore. So how are we going to meet the gap, fulfill that need? And I think they raised some good questions on their end of what are our options from a town level. And obviously we know some of those, whether it's overrides and those various avenues that we need to take place, but that conversation's probably going to need to happen sooner than later. So it's good to see the dialogue start, and we'll continue to see where that goes as nothing's getting cheaper. So that's the challenge I think we have as a town and as a school system, to provide the best services possible while being good stewards of the funds we've been given. So more to come on that. We do have a April 19th meeting now to follow up on that, as well as the VOTEC conversation. So,
Right. And we did have a department head meeting this past Monday. There were some assumptions in the town manager's budget that were presented in the form of local aid that did not come to fruition. So there's some overestimations in that budget. So barring the House 1 and House 2 budget having a supplemental appropriation to the governor's Chapter 70 or local aid number, Bill is asking departments to take a look at, what a 0.5% decrease would look like for their level service budget. The conversation that I had with him after the fact is that isn't applicable to us. We're still not even at level service, so he's not looking for us to cut beyond where we're at. So that's good conversation that wasn't necessarily happening before. Had we had conversations prior, there may not have been an overestimation of state aid, but we can just do better each year.
A lot was learned, and moving forward, we'll do better.
absolutely. So with that, we have our next meetings are, I need my calendar.
April 4th, Tuesday, April 4th, we'll do admin recommended budget.
Right.
Tuesday, April 11th, we will have our fee discussion. The fee discussion, I think, is short enough to start having the conversation about the budget balancing that same day. If we need to, we would schedule again for April 27th or 26th is the Tuesday.
And that leads nicely into our 19th conversation.
Right. So right now we're scheduled for the 4th and the 11th, but we may need to schedule a third April date if we don't get through those three things.
Great. With that, any further topics of discussion before we adjourn?
There's nothing in the mailbox. in case
There's
you're
nothing in the
wondering.
mailbox. It's a quiet night in Pembroke. With that, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Seconded.
There we go. We have a motion and a second.
First time I did it.
Excellent. All
Natalie,
those-
make sure you get that one down.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Have a good evening.